let's start. Let me introduce you and to our community members. But most of them know you, who you are, and they watching your video a lot. Okay. So, Jerod, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
So yes, I'm Jerod, also Digital Spaceport on YouTube. I'm sure that's probably where it has been originating in China also. And thank you for all the effort that you put in, Jack, on making all of this happen internationally. I really appreciate the effort. And I've got to say kudos to you on growing since the last time we talked, a tremendous audience. Really great to see the progress that you have made happen, sir. That was almost what, a year and a half ago the first time we talked?
Yeah. It's a year ago. I think last March or something. I think. Yeah.
That's excellent. So yes, so I live in Austin. I enjoy doing technology related tasks. I work professionally in the IT sector. Not necessarily with data center stuff directly, but I have a little bit of background in doing that. It's not my first rack. And so this has been something of a learning experience at the same time, doing this scale of home lab or a rack mini data center. It's a mini data center, I think, at this point. And it's just been a really great experience. And so working professionally where I do, I get to contact and talk to people that are very intelligent on a day-to-day basis. Some of them have given me some excellent ideas on things I can do to improve the layout and improve the architecture and make really high performance systems, something that is capable at even a small scale.
Okay. We know Chia has the new plot format 2.0. And yeah, in Chinese community, many farmers are wondering, should we replot or just stay the current situation? So, Jerod, how do you think about the plot 2.0 in generally? It's a improve, or it's just for good for some farmers? Or what do you think? Yeah.
Okay, so plot 2.0 really has to do with a new type of solution set for a Chia plot to be solved. And as a result of that, you can make greater utilization of the existing space you have on your hard drives. This gives you an additional advantage of space, and your own personal net space as a Chia farmer can grow as a result of plot 2.0. There is some balancing consideration points. If you have high electricity costs above, I would say 15 to 20 cents US dollars per kilowatt, you would want to start thinking about what kind of compression level you do. But being able to see compression levels like a C7 or possibly a C8 do require things with a GPU to be able to decompress them from the Gigahorse platform. And now this is complicated because we have two competing platforms at this point. We have the Chia official, which is not yet end-to-end capable. And then we have the Mad Max version, which is end-to-end capable. And so we don't know 100% exactly everything that's going to be in the Chia official package, which will be open source and probably out in the next month or two, that we should be able to see the end-to-end results of that. So I believe that almost every person that has the capability to replot should, but I do not think you should replot if you do not have cheaper electric and access to a decent graphics card like a 3060 Ti.
So yeah, how do you think about the GPU plot, and will it be in the future maybe sometime used for farming?
Yes, absolutely. I personally advocate that people should replot if they have the capability to, and they have a decent electric rate. Yes, GPU plotting and GPU farming are both the probably most profitable way for your average chia farmer. So that is a firm yes from me in that regard. I think that being as competitive as you can be relating to all the other farmers out there provides a good basis. And I think there is going to be not 100% of people replot. Personally, I would be surprised if we see 40% of people replot. It may be significantly lower than that. We could see 25% of people replot. I don't know. But whatever percentage of people do replot, your ability to do that fast on your side is important in my estimation, because you maximize your earning during a time period where we have the highest reward of XCH coming, which is before the halving that is going to be about a year from now. So it's important to do it not with a whole lot of delay is my take on it.
So the compressed plot, could it be used for mining other altcoin, like the forked coin, like recently the BHD they announced they will have the Chia consensus. If the answer is yes, will that be more load added to the CPU or RAM or GPU? Have you ever tested that? Yeah.
I don't think we have to test this to know the answer to it. It's going to require, so when we had the original plot format, it was very low overhead to add additional forks onto the farming load for a farm. It would not be a low load to add on now. So if you're investing money in a GPU, you would really want to think twice. And myself personally, I don't see that I would do this. I don't think that I would farm a fork, because if you look at a 1 petabyte farm, 1 petabyte, and you look at a C7 compression level with Mad Max, you can farm that with a Tesla P4, which is a 75 watt passively cooled GPU that can fit in almost every computer out there. It does not have a bus power. It does not have an 8-pin power or a 6-pin power. This is really going to be double if you add on a fork. So is it going to be worthwhile is question one. Question two is, especially with certain types of other farmables, is do you trust the security of that with your key set? And so I haven't done the research yet to check into the BHD to see if that's actually going to be like just actually what they said. We only need your public key. We don't need your private keys for that. If it is just public key, then you still would be looking, if you have compressed plots, at the need for additional utilization of another graphics card, possibly. I don't think that that's a good trade-off for most people, but let's not judge it 100% yet. I'm going to do some further digging into it myself.
So is there any cost increase in the the electricity or other thing? Will it affect the price of chia, the cost of farming chia? Yeah, I know you calculate a lot. So you have a table analyze that. Yeah,
it's incredibly complicated with plot 2.0 because it depends upon the compression level that you're going to choose, and it depends upon the efficiency that your graphics card will be able to achieve. It also depends upon whether or not you are using a PCIe 4 system, a PCIe 3 system. It also depends upon yet another variable, how big a farm you have, and also what you're using to access that farm. So there is about 7 variables that are going into this new calculation. So it is very difficult to say. What I'm seeing so far does not look like a tremendous increase in any price whatsoever. Using a GPU to create the plots is significantly lower electric. So prior, I had a really great quad socket plotters. They're obsolete. They're obsolete now. But the wattage that was used to create a plot on those versus a GPU is between 4 and 8 times less with a GPU. So creating plots is incredibly fast. Creating plots also uses incredibly little electricity now. When you get to the farming side, you have to consider your total cost of ongoing operations. And so that's where optimizing your GPU to the farm size becomes a very unique experience for the Chia farmer. And this is where you really need to have some planning that goes into how big a farm you're going to have, which compression level you're going to use, and what GPU you're going to use for the decode if you go with the Mad Max solution. If you go with the Chia official solution, GPU farming will not be something that is possible in the initial release. It sounds like CPU-based farming will be the way that that happens at first with their package. This is, again, I don't have inside knowledge of how it's going to look with Chia's solution, but I can say that with Max's solution, there is known scalability that you're able to achieve. And if you utilize and plan smart and you choose a reasonable compression level with the GigaHorse plotter, you can achieve a really good farm size with just a single 3060 Ti. If you go to the maximum, which would be like a C9, that is a bad choice for everybody almost all the time, because the scale of work that the GPU has to do is not linear. So you're looking at an increase between C7 and C8 that is quite tremendous as far as the amount of work the GPU needs to do. So I would recommend people consider C8 as the upper limit of what they're probably going to be interested in if they're utilizing the GigaHorse plotting solution.
So talking about the plot speed, what's the record you have? You have the fastest plotting speed.
The fastest on CPU, which was the quad socket system I had, and this was with blade bit RAM, was about 234 seconds. This was before GPU plotting. The fastest with just, without even trying, on a PCIe 3 generation system with a 3080 Ti, the fastest I've got was 168 seconds. I do have an AMD EPIC.
Wow.
This AMD EPIC system is going to be PCIe 4, and I hope to hit somewhere around 90 to 100 seconds with this. I'm very excited. This is all PCIe 4, and this is a huge amount of GPUs that can fit on this board. 4 GPUs can fit on this board. It's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. So also about the cost estimate. So you have to adjust your calculation table with the 7 variables. you will do that?
I'm working on it. It is actually very complicated. I actually think a decision tree or using a Google Sheet at this point is a little bit too cumbersome. I think I'm going to actually have to develop an application around that. If there's anybody that's in your audience that would be interested in helping me with that, I would certainly love to have them reach out to me.
So Jerod, after we plot by the GPU, is there any method can transfer the plots quickly from SSD to HDD?
Yes. So Chia has an open source piece of software that they have released called Plow, and this is able to orchestrate the movement to multiple hard drives. As well, the GigaHorse platform has a similar piece of application that is also out there that does the exact same thing. Now, one of the important considerations that I personally am making, and I find this very interesting, is if you utilize a RAID 0 of an appropriate size on your actual end, like the ending hard drives, the resting place hard drives, the large hard drives, you can achieve really, really impressive write speeds to them. If you have the bandwidth to provide that, do you even need to have a buffer? Is a good question. Now, traditionally, if you lost the data on one of those hard drives in a RAID 0, you lose the entire span of data. That would have been catastrophic to lose, say, 140, 150 terabytes of data in the past. But with the speed of GPU plotting now, if you needed to replot, you would essentially be out, not a significant amount of time to replot that same space. So I think that there's a good question about, do you need to utilize that, or is it better to use a high throughput? Myself personally, I'm going to be using high throughput on a 40 gigabit connection, which actually is bonded pairs, so it's 80 gigabits, and that'll be writing to the RAID arrays that I've got, and each RAID array is per tray. It's all engineering at this point. We will see. We will see what the best way is.
So recently, we have lots of news from Chia ecosystem, and many. It's a good news. Many developer teams, they update and launch the new products. For example, the new Chia wallet and the new name service. Could you talk about that? What's your thinking about them, or which one you look best?
Yes, and so I'm going to play the cautious card here just a little bit. I like the concept of a Chia name service. I think it's excellent. We really can benefit from having good Chia name services. I don't see the competition as being significantly adversarial. However, it doesn't have to be adversarial. It seems like it is, there's a lot of back and forth, probably more in the CNS namespace than we've seen in, I think any other of the applications out there. Does that sound right to you, Jack? It seems like the Chia name service, there's a lot of back and forth. I love Pocket, and I really like the development team behind Pocket. And I think that they have a really good application. They've got a good mobile application. They've got a good ecosystem they're working on building. They contribute some open source code. Not only that, they understand and have developed some good tools that they've provided back to the community. So I really do like them for that. I understand that there's hesitation also around certain aspects of, could they be controlled or shut down? I don't want to minimize that. That's also actually, a fairly decent argument. I wouldn't say it's accurate, but that is a fairly decent argument for somebody to proffer. And so on the other side of that, we have the NamesDAO, and this is an anonymous, pretty much organization. I don't necessarily feel super great about spending money and providing DNS services to a purely anonymous organization. And I almost wonder, let me ask you guys, do you see the possibility of, could this be built natively out of a coin? Could this be built natively out of the data layer? Could this be built natively out of the actual Chia blockchain and software that surrounds it without the need for an organization? I don't know the technicals. I don't know if that's possible or not. I do know that running a DNS by9 server is not a trivial task. That is a very complex task. And to run DNS services at scale is a very complicated task. So I hope the team that wins does actually have a really good, sophisticated knowledge base and people that are subject matter experts that are able to facilitate that. I do think there is a lot of conflict around it. I don't feel that it's competition almost. I feel like it's more like rifting a little bit. I think it'll be interesting to see. I think it's good for the ecosystem also to have challenging times. And so this is one of the more challenging things. I can tell you for sure, I am incredibly impressed with Haya's watch. And if I could get one of those watches, I would pay a lot of money for that. Have you seen her watch on Twitter? That is a great watch.
Yeah. So we've seen some servers closed recently in Chia. We know before, the pools closed down a lot, but recently we know that the name I forgot, Pool Chia Pool, it shut down, and also Nuco the wallet, they cannot support cost and close down. So how do you think about the risks if we choose the service and products in Chia ecosystem?
So let me ask you, when you think about a pool, how much do you think most of the pools make a day? Just let's say at 100 petabytes. How much do you think they're going to make?
1%. I think that's the 1 to 2%. I mean that they charge the service fee. That's the only thing they can charge. Yeah.
So it's very small if you look at the operation costs for running cloud-based servers, which are really needed. So there is going to be, and in my opinion, there were too many initial pools that started when Chia had a much higher price. We have seen a few pools here and there fall off. I think it's natural to see pools fall off. I actually expect significantly more pools, if we even stay in the $40 range or so, to fall off. It makes economic sense. And I don't think that business makes sense unless it makes economic sense. So I'm not surprised on the pools front. When you look at the Nuclear wallet in particular, we had probably the earliest in a very polished product, a very interesting. It was met with some initial security concerns because of Chris on the Chia plot talking about some of the security aspects of it. I think that when you looked at that, the first thing I saw when I looked at the Nuclear wallet and I thought to myself was, how are they going to make money? Does that make sense? So it's hard for a wallet to make money. Like, how are you going to make money? Do you run advertisements? Do you sell products? How do you make money? Do you take a percentage of fees? Do you create AMMs like we have Hashgreen talking about doing? Like we see some other like Tsunami DEX, which is now out. So having monetization in mind from moment one when you are starting a business is actually a really great idea. And formerly, I have been in a startup myself, and the biggest thing you can do is consider product market fit that is viable economically. And so seeing, certain services like CNS services, which do have an inherent dollar and cent value to them, seeing things like NFTs, which do have an inherent dollar and cent kind of pegged valuation to them when they sell. Not to say that this is financial advice, but those people have it's clear how they can make money in the ecosystem. So I think that that's an important consideration for everybody creating an application in Chia or even outside of Chia. How do you monetize that? How is it going to make money? How is it going to sustain itself? How is it going to be a cost-effective operation over the long term? And how is it going to enrich your users to where they want to be a part and happy to pay? That's the biggest thing, make the user happy.
Mm-hmm. So we know that there are lots of NFT projects in Chia recently, and especially some new projects include HemaDAO. We have God of Crypto NFT we get involved in. So how do you think about the ecosystem in NFT? And another question is, when I have a lot of NFT in my wallet, it's very hard to manage it, show and send and, provide the offer file. That's very difficult. And how do you think?
Okay. NFTs are difficult. So let me just say that having a successful NFT project is going to be, it's hard because you don't want to just leave people feeling abandoned as a creator of an NFT project. And if you do, then people in the future might not like whatever you create next. So you have a really hard proposition, how to create ongoing value in an NFT. We see some pretty good innovative ways of people actually bringing some ongoing value out with yield or yield in cat, like Monkey Zoo has their MZ token that you get if you hold. I know there's some other crypto projects that do some things that are very similar to that. And that gives incentivization in the ecosystem. Finding unique ways to utilize those NFTs for other things is an interesting concept. An NFT that's redeemable. I don't know if your audience watches along on Twitter, but today, me, Cameron Cooper, and also Mouthy, who's Paul Hainsworth, we're chatting about a beanie that I bought off of Cameron Cooper, which is redeemable for a physical actual item. So the ability for somebody to engage in commerce through NFT with the unsolicited or the capability of having a solicitation tied to a did is very possible. We have had a lot of slowdowns as far as the wallet. As they get bigger, the derivation index goes up, your ability to do things goes down. And I have a pretty high, I've got a lot of NFTs. And so the new release that came out allows us to bulk do certain things. So bulk move to did, bulk move to a profile, bulk list for sale. So those things right there are different because you can create clusters. And I think that we see the continued innovation from Chia, which will allow people to think differently. And I've got to say, I'm also following along in the chat. And I know that Haya is saying that she doesn't see necessarily the value in the watch because it's too hard to produce. However, I have to say, the watch has one feature which is really cool, that little ball dog in there, which is an NFT. So the ability to do things like that, like display my NFT on a watch, like there's a product market fit tie-in right there that would be very compelling to people to say, hey, I'm gonna create a did. The watch has software. I can edit the software on the watch, and I can take whatever the most recent thing in my did is, or maybe it randomly selects an NFT from my did. There's some really cool ideas there. So thinking outside of the traditional norms of how a product would look today is probably how people are going to make the biggest money if they are a creator of NFTs in the future. And those kind of tie-ins that are value adds to products, maybe physical products, maybe other types of products, are probably going to be very lucrative.
So yeah, we noticed that the new wallet has a lot of update for, especially for NFT, like the bug moving. Does that mean that do you think that's a signal that Chia will invest more in the NFT market? We know that you know, like Richard just promoted to CMO the metaverse and gaming market. So maybe do you think Chia will invest a lot of efforts on NFT market?
I would actually suggest that Chia already is investing a significant amount in NFT. If you look at the focus of a lot of the staff, if you look at the dedication and time spent, I don't think that NFT is something that the Chia internal folks feel is not important. I think there's also a possibility that they're seeing that there is other avenues to NFTs that could be very valuable. And so I would suspect that the NFT market relational, the fact that it's non-fungible, and also the fact that they are really geared towards a lot of tokenization, a lot of cat activity, a lot of extra market activity to be a red hat service provider. I think that they're seeing something that they may not have mentioned yet, which is not just necessarily the artwork side of NFTs. I think that they're seeing that there will be a big future potential for NFTs to be something that has a lot of uptake from their customers, which I think that part's really interesting because their customers are like, you know, governments and large organizations. So it is interesting. I don't really 100% know, but I would suggest that I think Chia themselves does see a very large value proposition in NFTs. And so I think they are, it does look like spending a significant amount of resources and time on NFT related technologies as well.
So yeah, that's a very good area that I think NFT could stimulate, you know, the ecosystem because it's easy to keep it daily update, has many activities. let me ask you a question. If you have an NFT in your hand, you said that you have lots already, okay? For example, if you have a Chia friend NFT and you go to New York someday and find a high-class restaurant or club, and you show your NFT, and they will give you a discount or a VIP room, something like that. Do you think that's attractable to you?
Yeah. I don't. The idea of whipping out my cactus NFT with vipers is just, it's hilarious. I mean, if that can get me a discount at a high class room, I will be it'll just be a perfect irony. Yes. Okay. So one of the things that I thought about internally for using was NFT token gating access. This was before the Chia Friends Discord actually implemented it by a long ways. This was before we really had, I was thinking about this with cat tokens. I was like, I could use a cat to gate access to certain things. So I think exclusives being accessible through NFTs is an excellent idea. I plan on actually doing that myself if I can figure out what the right thing is that can scale. I've learned that I can't scale myself. So it has to be something that can scale other than me. There's just not enough time for me to necessarily scale easily. But definitely, I think there is value proposition in exclusives, VIP access, discounts. Also, if you're looking at the tracking of certain aspects of it, I think that is a underlying technology that doesn't exist yet, that is an ancillary to the blockchain, possibly a data layer application that would be really fascinating to explore also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot of imagine space for us. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to your area. That's somebody asking that because GPU plotting increased the speed, it's increased a lot. So do you think K33 will come soon? And is it possible in the future if the K33 format coming, we just keep the hardware at the same level?
Okay, so we have a chip. So if your community has not participated in the chip and commented yet on GitHub, they should do that. First off, let their own personal feelings about the filter plot reduction that is planned to be happening be known. That is one of the things that, as a Chia community member, everybody should be doing. If you could help spread the word on that, that would be excellent. No, I do not see K32 as being in danger. I think that it makes really good sense for the proposal that Chia official has put forward. For one reason, the plot filter reduction will definitely handle probably almost every foreseeable outcome that is related to bandwidth being doubled at certain intervals on the PCIe bus. I think what you're seeing also makes really good alignment for them, because if they told everybody, hey, by the way, like right now, we do have the new plot 2.0. You don't have to replot. That you don't have to replot. You can keep going as you are. That's fine. Even after the plot filter reductions, you can keep going as you are. Like that right there is the key, in my opinion. If they were to say K32 is no longer a thing, a lot of people would have to, essentially to maintain the same net space, everybody would have to commit to replotting. So I think that's a very hard proposition to see. I think that's why we see the plot filter as the better lever to pull in this instance, because it doesn't affect the network security by remarkably changing everybody has to replot. It's optional at this point. K32, I think, remains viable for quite some time. I don't think that that is going to change in possibly even the next 10 years now with the plot filter reductions that we see. I will caveat that with one thing. It's always, it's always possible or impossible until it's possible. So, I mean, a quantum computer somewhere could come out or something. I don't know. But definitely for the foreseeable projected technology path that is forward that I see, the plot filter reduction maintains net space without dramatically forcing everybody to replot to K33. And also at the same time, it provides that additional security against the grinding attack that could happen if they weren't to do that.
So we have had a very long Twitter Space talk yesterday. I mean, maybe the day before yesterday. It's very nice Twitter Space and very long. It's too long for us to understand and go through all of it. So have you heard that? And do you have something you want to share? Because I know Bram has talked a lot about like Chalice and some upgrade the Chalice compiler tools. And Gene talked about something very important, maybe IPO. We don't know, but somebody told me they talked about the IPO very soon, something like that. Do you have any information you think significant you can share?
I mean, I love listening along to the spaces because it's kind of easy to just listen along and do something else. As far as IPO talk, so the talk was with Anthony Scaramucci, who has had some political things, but also is probably noted for being a venture capitalist. He's got a fund and stuff. He is big in stock making, and so I mean he's kind of a hedge fund guy. I think that there is a possibility, from what I heard, of yes, at some point the IPO is going to happen. I don't think you could get a specific timeline from Gene for a good reason. That would probably make it very difficult for them to actually get a successful listing. So I don't think that any information was given out that's like, it's happening tomorrow. There was talk of it. There's always talk of it whenever Gene will come to one of the spaces. So that part, we will just have to wait and see when it happens and hope for a really good timing so that it is very lucrative in the market and a good time for Chia so that it is a really good listing, if that makes sense. So that was one thing. I did actually get to hear along as Bram talked about some of the primitives that he's bringing about that will enable the state channels on Chia, which is a key technology for being able to do L2s. So to get those really rapid transactions, but he's also approaching it from a truly on-game gaming standpoint, which is really good. So we have some games that he's developing. I think the biggest thing is he's not just developing one game. They are kind of all like, he's got tic-tac-toe and he's got some other things, rock, paper, scissors. He's got something called Crunk, which I don't even know what that is. Poker. I look forward to playing poker on Chia. These primitives and this coin that will allow this will be critical to the enablement of successful L2s and also potentially additional security features that surround those. So I think that we're seeing some really good development, and I think that it's exciting. I mean, to see Bram get up on stage, it's been a while since Bram got up on a Twitter Space stage and talked about technical stuff. And so to see him do that was, I think, really cool. I view that as a really good sign that the technology work that he's doing on this with Chialis is yielding benefit. But that Twitter Space did go very, very long. I had to bail out myself because after like 3 or 4 hours, I was like, man, this is just going to go all night.
Yeah, they started another one after that. Oh, another 2 hours, I think.
They do. They do. They're called degenerates for a reason.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, Jerod, I think it's long enough. It's about 1 hour, so I'd like to ask the final question. Yeah, we saw your amazing lab, your garbage lab house now, very beautiful. And so first, how many? The size of your is 3P. 3P. Okay. And you invest so much on that. Is that connected to your future plan, like the digital spaceport? Do you have any roadmap in the future? You want to be a testing center for different hardware, or for you know Amazon, or for some retailers?
So I'm going to keep, I will say that I've been contacted by some companies that have some interest. I have one official sponsor, which is, I think, I can say they're Fiber Systems. There's probably additional things that will come online that are home lab related. As far as being a testing center, there will be quite a bit of testing that I do around certain pieces of hardware, actually specifically related to Chia, but also in general working towards public education on things like ZFS, TrueNAS, Proxmox, virtualization, and how these technologies can scale really well for home lab, as well as especially cryptocurrency producers, is one of the important things that I have on my roadmap. As far as any NFT projects or anything like that, I have ideas, but I don't yet have a firm plan. I would love to figure that out, and I'm very open to suggestions. If your audience has suggestions, they should feel free to DM me on Twitter or send me a tweet on Twitter. That's @GoSpaceport. They can also email me, social@digitalspaceport.com. And I'm also on Discord if they are on Discord. And so I would say that I see myself growing the farm, and the ability for me to grow the farm is not limited by an architecture. That was one of the things that was important to me when I redesigned everything, was to not be tied to kind of the way that I had been doing it, but to have what I call a scale out architecture for my Chia farm, so that when I want to add a petabyte, it's not a tremendous, burden to overcome.
So how about the electricity cost in Austin? It will be good for you to expand your Chia farm in the future?
My operations are very profitable. I on the 4 JBODs with about 240 disks, am looking at about 1,850 watts. My per disk wattage is right around 7.5 watts, which is very good. And that is with my base kilowatt rate at just under 10 cents USD per kilowatt hour in where I'm at. So I have very favorable electricity rates for doing an operation like Chia, and the ability of me to scale out at this point. I mean, I'm really limited by the electrical capacity that I have inside my house. And that is a huge farm. That would almost be a 45 petabyte farm before I hit my electrical capacity. I don't think I got enough money for those hard drives. I just don't think I have enough money for 45 petabytes of hard drives. That's a lot of money.
Okay, that's all. I think thank you very much, Jerod, for your time to being here and explain so much and share with us for your all the information. And it's also very happy for me to see you again, and to see this improvement a lot in your lab house. And yeah, we will airdrop one GOC, the God of Crypto NFT, to you, and you can keep it and go to New York and have your discount in some high level club and restaurant, and also some concerts. That's true. It's not a story.
I've been to New York. I'd rather go to Hong Kong. There we go.
Hong Kong, when?
I'm just saying I would rather go to Hong Kong and be able to redeem.
Okay.
Yeah, I would rather.
Okay. Yeah.
I've been to New York a bunch of times.
We will try to contact Hong Kong then.
We should do it. That would be great. I know that the meetups in Hong Kong are quite good, so I would love to go to one at some point in time.
Yeah, and we will have a meetup in Chengdu next month, the first meetup in China for Chia in China community. So
nice.
Yeah, I hope more, but it's too far for you to fly over here. I know that, but maybe in Hong Kong you can stop by here if you go to Hong Kong.
If I go to Hong Kong, then everything's close, right?
Yes, yes.
All right.
So that's all for today, and thank you everybody to coming to our AMA, and have a happy weekend. And thank you, Jerod, again. Okay, bye bye. Take care. Take care, buddy.